Thank you all for checking in. This is Glenn Lyvers. This is the October 2022, if you can believe it, poetry reading event. We're right up against Halloween. We have some of our favorite poets here today. It's a smaller group, so it'll go quick. We're going to kick things off with Gloria Caviglia.
Hi, everyone. This is an excerpt from a story I wrote. So it's not the beginning of it, it's kind of in the middle. It had been a vacation spot for city folk, much like a B&B of today, but its last stint as a boarding house had taken its toll. It stood up on a hill, the shingles on the octagonal roof green with moss and sliding downward like a sinking vessel. In the front yard, vestiges of large ceramic planters and a lily pond remained. At one time, the facades of the planters had angels and cherubs in raised relief, but wings and eyes had broken off, giving them an eerie, lost look, as if they were waiting for something to take them to their final resting place. There was a lone concrete bench made for two, strategically placed facing west, so one could see the sun set over Illinois Mountain. Towards the back of the house, there remained an Olympic-sized pool, void of water, leaves swirling along the bottom to the beat of the wind, as if they were trying to escape down the pool's drain. Several lounges and chairs were scattered around the edge of the pool, the canvas straps of the seat webbing blowing against the metal frames. To the left of the pool stood a concession stand, the ghost of an old Coca-Cola cooler and a built-in can opener standing still. To the right of the pool were ancient bathhouses, and as the wind whispered through them, one could imagine hearing shower water and wet towels. During snow-covered winter afternoons, neighborhood children would ride toboggans down the hill, laughing and making snowballs to throw into the pool. But now, October, the only sound one could hear on an afternoon when the shadows drew long was the wind blowing through the empty house shell. Parents warned their children not to go there at this time of year. Hunters, they'd say, it's not safe now. Wait until the season is over. But the children knew better. Stories travel and linger in a small town, and most of them remain. They had heard about Lily, the proprietress of the boarding house. That kind of story is the type that does linger and becomes larger than life or death. Lily had inherited the house from her parents, who had kept it as a summer sojourn. Since Lily was single and had no intention of partnering up, she kept the 9 guest rooms neat and well appointed by periodically rearranging the furniture and accessories according to her moods. It was on one such mission that she discovered the dumbwaiter inside one of the closets. Curious, she pulled the ropes down, and what came up was to haunt her the rest of her life. He or she, Lily had never reconciled the gender, sat on the base of the dumbwaiter, its face shining and cherubic. Its straight hair was grown in tufts of black. Or malnourishment. Their eyes locked. Her fascination grew as their eyes continued to explore one another, yet remain immobile. Suddenly, its round arms began to move away from its sides and upward towards Lily. As it put its outstretched arms towards her in a gesture that said, "Pick me up," Lily took 2 steps back. The dumbwaiter fell towards the basement from whence it had come. Every day of her life thereafter, Lily was to second guess what would have happened if only she had reached out to it. She knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same. Thank you.
Very nice. That's why it's called a dumbwaiter. Okay. And you have another poem, do you?
I actually took, I kind of made a poem out of this story. The house sits high above the Adirondack chairs, tossed carelessly between the pines. The wind whistles and swirls leaves inside the Olympic-sized pool devoid of water. An old Coca-Cola cooler with the bottle cap remover lies against the concession stand. If you listen closely, you can hear the ball clicking against the croquet mallets. If you breathe deeply, You can smell the cigars of the men playing dominoes in the shade. If you look closely, a figure sits in the dumbwaiter, motionless, with deep set eyes, lips pressed firmly together, using the pulley to go up and down, up and down, up and down, never wavering, never moving, up and down, up and down. A small, nondescript, childlike figure with staring eyes boring into yours. Don't reach out for it.
Very nice. Okay, well, thank you, Gloria. Okay, Sean O'Connor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me again. And greetings from Ireland. It was easy to follow this one because a lot of what I write is to do with death and dying and the spirits of the dead and so on. And Halloween in Ireland, as you know, means little holy time, Ian being the diminutive of holy. And our sense of it is that the spirits of our dead return to us. So they're not so much ghosts as our actual ancestors and our grandparents, and whoever's dead belonging to us, has come back for a visit, like Obon in Japan. Very same, actually. I was struck by that when I lived in Japan. So I'll read a haibun and a tanka in that order. Is that okay? And I think this is very personal, you know, from where I'm sitting, this is kind of Halloween stuff, but I didn't think of that when I was writing it. It wasn't meant to be. So the first piece, I think you might have heard from me before, but I think it's good for tonight. It's called Hands. Hands, dream in a long night, my dead friends and I, dancing in treetops. In the black of night, woken by the calls of my father, he has borrowed the voice of the wind god, yet I recognize him. He's reaching cries. He calls me by my forever name, the one I had before mother and father were born. Naked, I move through the window, then the hedge outside, feeling it brush me, soft as lanugo. Over the dew-forming grass I walk, following his appeal, until I feel him and know he gestures for me to bow down low, crawl into a tangle of briars whose thorns do not cut, but somehow salve and ease me through a tunnel of dense growth above rough earth. I straighten up, my father's wind god voice always before me, the ground dropping downwards, increasing my speed, till I am running and faster propelled by a gravity beyond the pull of earth. I feel no more the pound of ground, and nothing around me but darkness, air. Black winter moon, unseen waves crashing, the taste of sea spray. Flung out, falling, a sense of heaving water way below. Eyes stream in the salty air and, tumbling forward, the coming into focus of hands reaching up to me, out of the ocean, the hands of everyone I ever met who died. Young Kevin's hands, Mikey's too, old man Grace and the fiddler Donahue, the hands of grandparents, uncles and aunts already gone, cousins, school friend, buddies and lovers, the longed for, the lost. Watanabe-sama, felled by cancer, the girl who dropped from the Seto Bridge, broke the inland sea, and her stillborn child, never named. The hands of dead patients whom I washed in mortuaries, all of them and each of them, reaching up to cushion and comfort, so I may be free from fear to answer the call my father makes on his and their behalf. Into the non-moon, warm on the horizon, our ship of ghosts. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
And every week I go to visit my father's grave since his death in January, and I write tanka and haiku every week when I'm there. Well, I start them when I'm there and I finish them when I finish them. So this is the recent one. And again, I think it fits with the Halloween culture very well. There's no title. I'll read it twice. Last snowflakes settle, a mountain stag's plume of breath, soundlessly swelling. Can you hear it through the earth? my father's bones are singing. Last snowflakes settle, a mountain stag's plume of breath, soundlessly swelling. Can you hear it through the earth? My father's bones are singing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow. Wow. You are in the zone. Sorry for your loss. That's just such a talent, you know. That first poem when you said my forever name, I've never heard that before, and that's just cool. You know, that transcendental, that by gravity beyond the power, the pull of earth. It just wow. It's just so impressive. Thank you so much for coming today. Always
You're
always
welcome.
love your work.
Thank you, Lou.
All right. And now to Lynette Esposito.
Hello, this is Lynette Esposito from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I wrote a poem that's a little different horror. I entitled it Understanding Horror. My old face in the mirror, watching someone die, hearing a last breath, touching a broken heart, understanding the list of medicines you have on your shelves, being out of chocolate, running in the rain, being kissed by a grandchild for the first time, not having to live forever, playing 3,562 games of solitaire. And I liked so much Sean's comments on things beyond us that we don't understand, calling to us in certain ways. I saw this huge bird sitting on the railing of my pool, and I thought, well, there's a poem there. It was just big and heavy, so I call it The Bird on the Edge of the Dead. I looked out my kitchen window, a quick glance. He perched like royalty on the silver railing, looped up from cement as if waiting. The pool, shrouded, a few colorful leaves scattered like flowers for the deceased, is dormant. The bird looked to the woods, his faint orange chest turned away from me, his speckled feathers blending him into the background, as if he were my imagination. I went outside to see him closer, but it was not to be. What is it we see in our mind? A message? I looked the next morning, but the bird did not come back. Like you, my love, who I see everywhere in many shapes, with hope that you are somewhere just beyond my sight, always watching, and once in a while, appear.
Thank you, Lynette. Really, really appreciate it. Oh, got another visitor coming in. Just a second. We'll let her sit down. And say hi to Bob Whalen. He's in here somewhere. All right. Just give me a second. I'm going to read a quick one that I've read this before. Sometimes I like to fill the voids when somebody new comes in because it takes them a minute for their camera to go. This isn't really a new one, but it is sort of in the theme. I read this poem by this poet named Zachary Schomburg. It's called Scary No Scary, and it's just tickled me for years. And it's just my sense of humor, and it's dark. And so if you come back to this later, you might want to find that and read it to your young ones because it's just funny and great and weird. This one's called Last Words. I treated a man in the ER today. He lay there. I was helpless to stop the bleeding. He was covered in wounds, crisscrossed like a crimsoned map. The police asked, "Who did this to you?" And he had this bit of unfinished business. Every breath he suffered could be his last, and by now the room is full of people, drawing close, all struggling to hear his last words. And he said, "Past the garden behind my home, you will find a path, rounded and steep. Take that path to the top, to a crooked shack with holes in the floorboards and a broken window. There will be a red tub and a tire swing that looks like it swings by itself. Knock on the door, and a man will answer. He'll ask you, slashy or no slashy? For the love of God, tell him no slashy." This is crazy. Okay, let's find James Bethel. James.
Thank you, Glenn. I love that story. I have a growing collection of poems under the title of Halloween Songs, two of which have been published by Poetry Quarterly, one of which I'll read today, but not this one. This one is somewhere out there. Oh, yes. My name is James, and I am in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma, of all places. This poem is entitled Immaculate Reconception. Norma Erica strains with her partner Calliope, conjuring Halloween at a midnight costume party on an island in Maine, where the very idea of soul was originally conceived. At this costume party, an ape is officiating, wearing Johnny Weissmuller's Jungle Jim jeans, while the groom, a conehead in white face, marries a divorced nun. Meanwhile, the devil, masturbating his tail, is laughing at the assemblage. Toulouse-Lautrec and Jerry Garcia are leading the singing. Lohengrin has been hired to grin, and Mendelssohn, third on the card to dance with Shakespeare, is searching for his violin. When Roddy McDowell calls for objections, a line forms in protest of such rash individuation as this mid-millennium decision. Father, bless these rings, by God. Sarducci, remember him? We'll bless these rings, among other things. Everyone will eat the devil's food and spew imported happiness all over the retrofitted summer cottage. It's such a perfect party, a celebration of the immaculate reconception of alien souls. Nobody will know anybody, no matter how close they get, and won't even take time to care. This one was published in Poetry Quarterly in the fall issue of 21. And the title is Wrapped in a Witch Dreaming. This long fall sings Halloween songs to the witch of November who sleeps yet. Dreaming of death, she wonders at the sensation of awakening. You can hear her there, breathing whispers of last leaves among pine. Enchantment by gray-green fog breath, sop-wet, yellow maple, high-tide, storm-tossed commuters chatter, confused by the sudden rush of midday warmth. The air, sticky with every conceivable thing, enshrouds a still hopeful mother peering into the crowd for the child who has yet to discover she is missing. Exactly 1/2 mile away, island young spruce stand in a sacred circle beneath a sentinel, like school children, wrapped in their listening to some Sleepy Hollow legend. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey. Is James Nicholas still here? Yes, there he is.
Yes,
Hey,
and my
James.
picture came back, so I hope you can all see me.
I can
I mean,
see you. You look great.
Camera to work just by itself. All of a sudden, I look and I go, "Where's my name? Oh no, it's my face." So anyway, happy you're all here. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm
Happy
a big
birthday.
and black person. And tonight's a high school reunion a few years posted. So the second poem I'm going to read was written after my 25th reunion, where stuff happened. This one was published quite a long time ago in an online horror journal called The Harrow. And it since has appeared in a few other places, and it's going to be in an upcoming collection of mine called Natural Tendencies. But it's creepy. The flowers were dark. I used to love the woods beyond the brook, where wild roots warped in welters and wildflowers incensed the shade, alluring us to look for deeper scents beyond the evening hours. Insensate, spurred by sylvan mysteries, prepared to forage like nocturnal creatures, my friend and I continued to expose the forest's gnarly, hidden inner features. The moon was new, the sky grew overcast, the brambles thickened, and our bare arms bled from thorns, and a malefic midnight mist made it so dark we could not see the red. My foot stuck in a root. I laughed, then called. No answer. Had he gone ahead or back? I had no knife, no axe, no flare, so howled for help for hours. Then everything went black. At break of day, on either side of me, I found 2 flat stones sharp enough for flints and hacked the root and worked the ankle free, then hobbled home. The throbbing made me wince a little, maybe curse. At dawn, I went to show the search and rescue where we'd gone, but wasn't sure. The flowers smelled different, and everything looked different at dawn. They blazed a trail and marked it, dredged 2 bogs where quicksand was suspected, drained the ground for safety, and to bridge the creek, laid logs, but all for naught. My friend was never found. All that was years ago. Today, my son and his friends hike with no cause for alarm, though once he told me how they came upon a briar reaching like a bloody arm, as if to trip them on the twisted trail. A breeze rose and its brace of branches shook. He said it sounded like a human wail. I used to love the woods beyond the brook. I should mention that was slightly inspired because the hometown that I'm from, Holden, Massachusetts, they recently found an actual bog in the woods. There's only one of 2 actual peat bogs where you could drown in the woods east of the Mississippi. You know, they have them in Ireland and England and, you know, Great Britain. And so footpaths are important and all that stuff. But that inspired this poem, and they're researching it. Worcester State University was researching it. And so that inspired this walk. This is another walk in the woods that happened after my 25th reunion for high school, which was some years ago. And you know what a menhir is? Menhir, one of those big giant white slabs like the ones at Stonehenge or Avebury or in the middle of nowhere. That's the name of it is menhir. You need not come, but if you do, first tell someone the place, the same as I've just told you, in case, well, just in case. Before we go, though, I should say, because you ought to know what happened one summer day many years ago. I was in those woods alone, just walking. By and by, I came across a tall white stone as bright as it was high. Then, though I only half recall, I heard a pulsing sound. I felt it seize me in a thrall and fell me to the ground. And when I woke, as if from dreaming, though the dream seemed not quite over, the spot where I'd seen the big stone beaming was a bed of clover. I should have known to blaze the trail with knife marks in the trees, but the sun was low. I was feeling frail, and a sudden ominous breeze was swelling with the setting sun and the fast fading light. So I raced home as anyone might run on such a night. Besides, it didn't strike me then that on the following day, when I tried to find the path again, I wouldn't know the way. Since then, I have seen Avebury's stones, which are also white, watched several documentaries on the strange effects of light at Stonehenge on the solstices, from how the stones are spaced, researched all sorts of theories on why those stones were placed, then went to Egypt, Ireland, Lourdes, Karnak, and Cornwall. Not one has helped me understand what happened here at all. But this year, at the solstice hour, the moon is turning new. There's going to be a meteor shower, and I've run into you. Plus, Jupiter is going to be aligned with Saturn and Mars. If that's not synchronicity, I don't know what is. So come along. Oh, I won't mind, my long lost childhood friend, and we shall find what we shall find and how the day will end. And both were published online. The first was in the Harrow. This was in River Babel. This one has since been published in my collection, Out of Nothing, Poems of Art and Artists, because, again, those white stones are art as far as I'm concerned. And the other one's coming into Natural Tendencies, which will be out from Cervena Barva in a year or so. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I'm always happy to be.
Thank you. That was really great. Okay, so I'm going to read a really short piece for the Halloween in the spirit of things today. And then following that, we'll go with Emily Strauss, Linda Imbler, Edward Onhern, Doug Van Hooser, Francis Flavin, Peter Yaremko, Bob Moreland, Clarice Samuels, Patrice Wilson. Thanks for coming in, Patrice. I did see that. Bob Whalen, thank you for coming. Heather Grant, I saw you come in and sit down. Thank you for being here. So this little piece was written in Inwood, Indiana, in the very first issue that we had, and it just popped into my head that it's short enough to count. It's a really short story, but it's a little prosy, and it's in the spirit of thing. It's called Esther. There was a woman that lived on the corner by where I was growing up there in Inwood, and she was riddled in lore. Let's put it that way. Esther. When she was dull and tired of watching TV, or any number of mundane tasks, she would go out to the garage to investigate. The garage sat where great poplars once stood, casting their wintry skeleton shadows upon the snow. The nobility was gone, replaced by the laughter of teenagers playing pool and cheating the pinball gods. Esther had filled the garage with coin-operated games and a pool table. Maybe she did it because she needed the money, or maybe she wanted to attract the children, but whatever her reasons, she did attract the children, all of them. This brought about a kind of paranoia in Esther. She would pace the floors inside her modest yellow house, glancing out the windows to the garage. She would become angry and exclaim, "They better not be getting into anything out there." These thoughts would consume her and send her out to the garage over and over throughout the day until one January day, her worst fears were realized. Esther went out to open the garage door at 7 a.m., only to find the door itself was wide open. She walked inside. Something about the crisp winter air erased any idea that something wasn't wrong. At first, she thought she must have forgotten to lock up last night, but she did. She did lock up. She locked both of the padlocks, and now she could see them in pieces scattered across the floor inside the garage. Esther stood in the garage, looking at the broken lock on the pool table. It was a violation. Wasn't she the one who had put wood in the stove? Wasn't she the one who had made change for the table? She stood there in her yellow housecoat and red slippers, with the keys to the table in one hand and an empty purse in the other. A long moment passed before she noticed the wood axe was chipped. "I know what to do with you," she murmured. "The next kid to walk through that door is gonna get it." For the next 30 minutes, she shuffled her feet around the garage. She wondered if she would really kill the next child that came in, or if she would raise the prices and make everyone repay the loss of her $10. The cool air chipped away at her anger little by little, until at last she lit the little stove to warm the garage for the children that would certainly be arriving soon. She took the axe and turned to follow her footprints in the snow back to the small yellow house. The chill had taken its toll. She was as old as any of the Poplars had been, and better known. Her age and the emotional drain of the morning had taxed her severely. The stoic face of the businesswoman had slid into a defeated sadness, like a wax face melting. Her steps were shorter going back, and her feet barely lifted from the ground. She did not notice that the birds didn't stir as she passed them on her way back to the house. She looked like an old tree walking. Once inside, Esther leaned on the chest freezer. She rested there, and while she stood there, her strength slowly returned until at last she felt strong enough to move again. She placed her frail hands on the chest freezer and pushed the top open. Snow-like frost fell into tiny white piles, and a cool fog flowed out like little clouds, thinning quickly. Esther looked at her husband's corpse inside of the freezer and said, "Can you believe that they would do that to me?" She put the axe inside the freezer and closed the door. All right. Emily Strauss.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily. I live in rural Oregon, halfway between Mount Shasta and Crater Lake. That's where I come from. I have a poem. I was going to try to share my screen, but I don't see how to do that, so I won't worry about it. It's okay, no problem. I'm in a long-term group, and we're going through a book of forms and formal poetics. And 1 week we were supposed to, or month, we were supposed to write a ballad. So I tried a ballad. I'll read it slowly. A ballad with no words. Hum, 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 the old woman muttered alone. In her hand sloshed a glass of rum. Her head felt heavy as a stone. No, no, there's nothing to say, the woman proclaimed alone, as she sat at the end of the day in the parlor of her little home. My head is empty now, she said. She kept time with a chicken bone. I guess I'll just go off to bed. She heard the knell of a bell's tone. She knew the knell of that bell, its tones rising from forged brass, but she couldn't find words to tell the world about the beauty of grass. It's ironic that she wouldn't sing, that words simply refused to come, when all she heard was the ring of a chime like a doorbell done. A doorbell echoed in her head through the silence of the house. No, no, she thought, I'll go to bed, quiet as that proverbial mouse. Words can't tell the woman's silence as she slept the sleep of rum. Her voice failed to still the violence of thoughts, all that's left was a hum. The woman sang a song without words. Hum, hum, pounded like a drum, as if a flock of yellow birds struck her lips and left her dumb. That's one. Shall I? Oh, thank you. Shall I read another one? Let me see. This one is not a formal poem. This is not a formal poem. It's very short. Death in the Morning. An old stone house on Lake Como, under ancient cypress and laurel trees, a metal gate in the low wall, on a lane with a view of the water and Monte Cornezolo, a single woman lived. One day she disappeared. The neighbors assumed she escaped the virus, which killed many in the village. 2 years later, municipal workers arrived to prune the great trees that threatened to topple over, peered into the abandoned house. They noticed a figure seated at the table, the mummified remains of the woman who lived alone, died unnoticed, sitting where she ate her last meal. Mice have removed all the crumbs. That came from a news story, in fact, that I read once. Thank you. A sort of a true news story. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Very, very nice. Let's see here. We'll get there. I did see you come in, Debbie. Thank you for sneaking in here. The next reader is Linda Engler.
Hi, everybody. I'm in Wichita, Kansas. Glenn, you guys were talking about Halloween candy earlier. I need to write this up as a story or a poem, but really quickly in a nutshell, the year that my brother and I got all the Halloween candy was the year that a family member of ours, there was a airline strike going on. He worked at a mortuary, so he drove up from Texas and went through St. Louis where we were living then, dropped the lady off at the funeral home there, came and spent the night with us. Of course, the hearse was in the driveway the whole night. My brother and I told the kid with the biggest mouth in the neighborhood that the coffin and the body were in the driveway in the hearse, and we got all the candy that year. It was great. Trick or treat. Okay, I have two here right now. One is called Thoughts on the Cemetery. I've reached that level of immovable gray in my hair, and I tarry at the gates of a land filled with looming, coiling shadows in the eve. The silence sits upon these acres, except for the flash mobs that periodically enter the confines, each dressed in a somber black and clutched by the cold, icy grip of each individual's memory. Suicides absorb one perspective, with perhaps the acrid scent of gunmetal still evident on some partial face, or the red blaze of an unattended cigarette added another member to the horizontal club. Or there may be once mortal parts weakened by the excessive stuffing of what is not good for the body. At any rate, I see it so plainly, the infectious silence that comes over us, invading our pores, each organ becoming resigned to our mysticism soon to be released. I say we because very soon, as they carry me in, either angels or demons will be knocking to get in, and each will be hoping that I will respond with enter. Okay, this next one is for all the romantics out there. It's called Cracked Spines. Halloween only happens occasionally throughout history. Large groups of people disappearing had popularly been explained away as the Great Plague of London, the Black Plague, the Modern Plague, and most recently, the Manchurian Plague of 1910, which we, the writers of this scroll, have firsthand knowledge. These are the opening statements made on an obscure scroll recently unearthed by a reliable group of archaeologists that records an occult practice known as Halloween. The writers of the scroll were a small band of survivors who got overlooked in the last carnage and eventually made their way up into a mountain cave. They later recorded the particulars of that gruesome event, as well as predicting the next, and hid the scroll. Here are their words. They clawed their way up from the dirt and made their way down streets and across fields to where they used to live. These beings of shiny bones, now bald of skin, their joints sounding like clattering as they marched along. We could hear them coming, but nothing we would do could keep them out. For these were the lonely dead, and they came seeking the company of those who had loved them and still remembered. They marched forward, recalling cooing words such as, "You will always have my heart," and "My heart is yours." They gnawed through the chest of their beloveds to get to that prize, to finally touch what had been promised to forever be theirs, and to relieve those living whom they still treasured of the burden of a life bereft of the ones whom they had once held so dear. And who could blame them? Not all who marched had been loved. As those unfortunates weaved their way along, they fell apart, and the jagged pieces of their cracked spines were used as tools, while the desperate deceased sawed their way through doorways and windows to gain entry. By the way, according to the calculations set forth by this band of survivors from the early 20th century, the next Halloween is coming February 14th, 2023. Rather than publishing the scroll, the archaeologists who had recently unearthed it decided to rebury it. They knew, since there was no time for the victims of the next event to prepare, that would only be cruel to inform them that their days were probably numbered. Thank you.
Hi, Edward. Thank you for coming. You're next. And Linda, I really appreciated that. That was great work.
Thanks.
Thanks. I'm Ed. I'm from Fairfield, Connecticut. This piece is sort of my Halloween piece. It's called Bête Noire. It's coming out pretty soon in Written Tales, I think. Bête Noire. You have forgotten me, sheltered in your luminance, but I am focused on you. I wait for you in darkness, for light sunders my being, but do not be complacent. Fires die, electricity fails, and in that darkness I return. So close I can taste your breath, smell the rankness of your fear, cut into your cloistered soul and let stillborn intentions spill out to be eaten and defecated as curses. I am that which you should fear above all loss and rejection, for I will cannibalize your essence, leaving only a rotting husk for passersby to shun. The next is called bitter vetch. That's a term that I've always wanted to use somewhere or other, either fiction or poetry. I'll tell you what it means toward the end. But I like it because it also sort of rhymes with kvetch, which is sort of what this poem does. Bitter vetch. A harsh disappointment I now have about myself is no longer being able to indulge the fantasies that preoccupied my life. I no longer drink or smoke or gamble, don't much brag or gossip or lie, almost don't cheat on taxes, can't ramp up to any kind of excess without almost immediate suffering. I want the wannabe wanton I always thought I could be, to come back for a visit, a 4-course Saturday night frolic without Sunday morning indigestion. And bitter vetch, I'm told by Wikipedia, my always reliable source, is an ancient plant used in medieval Scotland as an appetite suppressant, because it tasted so bad. They boiled and ate the tubers during periods of famine.
Thank you for that. I really enjoyed that piece. Okay. Doug Van Hooser.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug. I live in Wisconsin on Whitewater Lake. When I saw the theme was Halloween centered, I went back to a couple of poems I wrote, probably a couple of years ago. I find nothing spookier than politicians and all their commercials. So this first poem is about a skunk that I caught in a live trap that was intended for a woodchuck that had decided to take up residence under my deck. The title is A Live Trap. Capturing a skunk creates a problem. They turn tail and spray dismay. Such disdain leaves a sense of unforgiving, a scent of arrogance, not capitulation. This attitude inclines for ridicule, but is skunk nonchalance. This abysmal reaction dissuades one from a serious discussion to sort out the skunk's complaint. But what allows the skunk to dine and defecate wherever his self-righteousness saunters and blare like a trumpet his dissonant stink, all thin and thick skin absorbs? The odor, a dye of words that discolors, a stain that cannot be dissolved, a tattoo time does not erase. The second poem is related to the death that we associate with Halloween. It's entitled When I Die. When I die, take me to the curb. You have inherited whatever soaked your sponge. Recycle what you want, but my life belongs in the landfill. Shovel your own waste, take your mistakes by the hand, nod knowingly, even when you disagree. Remember, wasps always stings, bees not usually. Low-hanging fruit tastes just as good, but get out the ladder. When you're out of breath, you know it was worth it. Don't fear a challenge, but don't embrace it like an old friend. Perfunctory may be nice, but sincerity rings the bells. Oh, I'm lecturing, pretending you are listening. I delude myself. Remember to do that occasionally. It's called optimism. It's the best baggage handler you'll ever meet. Stones are hard for many reasons, to stumble over and stub your toe, to bang against the door, to break glass. Don't look in a mirror unless you want to meet the enemy. Okay, that's enough. Someday you'll wring out the sponge. Thanks.
Thank you. Really nice. Really appreciate that one. Francis Flavin.
Good morning, everybody. What is it? There we go. Good morning. I'm in Sparks, Nevada, via many years in Alaska. And like many bald guys, I have horror every day when I first confront a mirror. First poem I have is called Beyond Forlorn. It's in Pacific Quarterly. Beyond Forlorn, the curse of the left seat. Amidst a chaos of brightly painted trikes and jeepneys stands a gaunt and haunting image. The last living remnants of a dog quavers in the left lane of the bustling highway, legs splayed like a newborn fawn. No energy to run, no will to move. A look once observed and never forgotten, in the taiga far removed in distance and time from this tropical place. A bull moose brought to ground, hamstrung by the slashing teeth of the pursuing wolf pack. His frosty breath and bloody muzzles bear testimony to the long struggle. The moose lay still alive as the pack pulled and devoured his liver and intestines. The fallen patriarch did not move, his eyes fixed on a place beyond forlorn. And later there will be puppies, cute and cuddly, bulls. And something a little bit lighter to follow that, called Outback. Is there hantavirus in the shed? I have to look despite my dread. And a mouse or two I think I saw when Last I found the door ajar. And what about the threat of molds? Good grief, I fear I'm getting old. And oh, so very, very wary of things unknown and awfully scary. I'm sure I must be turning pale with thoughts of stepping on a nail. The sunlight cannot reach inside. No telling what the darkness hides. Cleaning sheds is dirty work, the type of which I think I'll shirk. There's nothing in there I should need. I think I'll just go home and read. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Peter Uremko is going to be next, followed by Bob Moreland. And just a little note here that it'll be gratefulness next month. That's the theme. What are you grateful for? Kind of goes with the holidays. Probably saw that coming. So, Peter.
Hi, I'm started writing a long poem, like book length, and in it the narrator is basically reviewing his life as he himself is dying. So I thought I've got about a dozen lines about October, which is very meaningful to the character because many members of his family were born and died in that particular month. I dallied through the summer months to be born in October. Oh, October, giver, taker, scary maker, masked month of pumpkin-headed ghouls, misty ghosties, headless horsemen, shortening our days with early darkness, harrowing the quick and setting witches wheeling, rising, dying, mirth-making month of surrendered leaves, falling before coldening winds, too dried, too tired to try anymore. Oh, October, birthday month of my favorite aunt and her sister too, she who gave breath to me after 3 days and nights, finally drawn with forceps to keep the birther breathing. The impressions of the tool still on my skull if I look closely. Why then did you turn and take them back one by one, year by year? Grandfather first, grandma next, uncles and my aunt, until now I lie dying. Just the one today, Glenn.
Thank you. Wow, it was a good one. You made it a good one for sure. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Always strong. I like the way that you use the alliteration, and then you just seem to have you sort of break that tension. Not maybe tension is not the right word, but the mechanics of the poem, starts getting a little heavy, and then you just kind of break it, and it's really good the way you do that. I like that a lot. All right, Bob Moreland.
I'm Bob Moreland, Carroll Beach, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. This first poem is a sink cinquain. With the light behind me, you can't see it, so you may have to look that up on the authoritative knowledge of Wikipedia, what a sink cinquain is. This is called Lost in Translation, and it goes with our Halloween theme. Sometimes I wonder, lost the path, the holiday forgotten from the night before, bewitched. Scary All Hallows Eve, Berlioz, Symphony Fantastique. The clock chimes midnight as spirits enjoin the dance. They come so frightening that we tremble behind our locked doors as they knock once, twice, thrice, open, yelling frightening chant, trick or treat. Don't make it a trick because you know it will be bad. Assuaged, they retreat until more come, tumult all night. with the dawn, will I remember All Saints? Thank you. And that's All Saints Day. Okay.
Very nice.
The second poem kind of gets into a little of the current events. I had the opportunity to attend a poetry workshop taught by Wisconsin Poet Laureate Marilyn Taylor at York, London. And this was from a series called Writing the Tough Ones. This is a metaphor for pride. This is called Lucifer. And the epigram says, for the people of Ukraine, never give up, never surrender. The lie that denies itself, tight to the perception built on shifting sand, that human life is sacred, that any evil is okay in one's own moral judgment. Truth is relative. There are no absolutes except maybe vodka. Rewrite history? No problem. Stalin did it. There's a precedent. No disagreement, or one may wake up dead. Nuclear blackmail is the furnace that reveals the cowardice of the world. Nations tremble in the specter of the flash. Verdant world becomes doom cinder, but that is on those who continue to feed the lie. Allow the carnage, make up history. If repeated long enough, the lie becomes truth, erasing anything that has gone before. Lucifer perceived he was superior to God. Pride lives the lie that everything is fine. Rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. Enjoy that long plummet to a fiery hell. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of imagery there. Okay, we're going to move on to Clarice Samuels, and then following Clarice, all the way from tropical Hawaii, we'll have Patrice Wilson after Clarice Samuels. Patrice and Clarice.
Okay, I'm in Hudson, Quebec, a small town on the Ottawa River, right where the Ottawa River flows into the Lake of Two Mountains, which I assume is an Indian name. Oops. Is it okay to say Indian? Well, whatever.
It is.
Okay, so the first poem is The Vampire. The Vampire. Handsome, devastating, almost regal. There is something about him, dangerous though he may be. It is easy to love him, but he is fickle and strange. And if he adores you, he will ruin you and make you just like him forever. Okay, and the next one is just a, not just, but it is a haiku. A lone goose flying madly, pale and milky, witch's moon. That's it. Oh, you want me to read it twice?
Sure. Always love it twice.
A lone goose flying madly, pale and milky, witch's moon.
Very nice. Good image.
you.
Love that. Thanks, Clarice.
You're welcome.
On to Patrice Wilson and then Bob Whalen. Patrice. You have to unmute yourself.
I am hereby unmuted. I'm really enjoying these poems, these pieces today. I want to say. My first poem is very old. In fact, I don't want to say how old, so I won't. This is called Contemplating a Breakup on Halloween. I open my door to look down the hall. Behind two prostitutes, the devil walks. All three are friendly women. The pottery you bought me from Mexico, I set my old plant in. They are both green. I am waiting for you. What disguise shall I wear? The women may talk, and you will not like me if I dress another prostitute's part. The red from one devil is enough. The plant in the pottery, only you and I know it is not also from Mexico, but bought by me. Some foreign place beckons me away. This white dorm room, like a hospital's, with women in costume outside in the hallway, waiting for me to decide. And then I have a haiku. Back when I was growing up, they had the night before Halloween was called Mischief Night. Is that still something that's happening out there somewhere? Oh yeah. Oh well. Okay. Well, I wrote this. I didn't really have a title, but after I lived with it for a while, I thought a good title might be Mischief Night. The working title is All in the Dark. You choose which one you like better. Mischief Night. White ninja clouds steal across full moon glow's night wind. An owl stalks its prey. White ninja clouds steal across full moon glow's night wind. An owl stalks its prey.
Thank you. Wow, it's such a wonderful reading. This group is just never disappoints. All right, we're going to switch over here and visit our friend Bob Whalen.
Hello. I don't want to snag time, but I think the notion of Mischief Night, I'm going to be reading a poem about Samhain, where that's the holiday where Halloween started. And if there was someone you didn't like, Halloween was where there were imps and demons running around. So you could go burn down your neighbor's barn and blame it on the evil spirits. And so I think that might be the connection, but that's just a guess. So I have two poems. One is called Sanguine Vampires. They come when you are deep asleep in the spell of a vivid dream. Their foggy voice will ooze and creep to block the dream's enchanted strain. They speak your name, apologize, disturb out of necessity. To their commands you slowly rise, for they demand persistently. First, may the holy host proclaim correct birth date, month, day, and year. Recite the prayer of your full name so you can offer without fear. Blood is the grail of their demands. They warn you of a little poke, quest probing into arms or hands. Then a flashing pain says they misspoke. Red draining into sterile vials, handled as if a martyr's relics, sanctified by reverent smiles, blessed by the sanguine vampire clerics. These must undergo strange alchemy, reveal their secret mystery. Such sacrifice you must endure, the sacred gift, so you'll be cured. And here's a scary poem. It's about divorce with children. Samhain. Nights creep darker and longer. Home fires are left to burn out. Smoke from their smoldering cuts the breath as it chokes. There are no embers, just the toxic scent of smudge. A dumb supper divines future love. There is appetite for nothing. Weight is lost, bones are showing, fields are barren stalks. Numb hibernation offers respite from the pain of a recurring dream. We no longer sleep together. I lie alone on the living room futon, mind wandering through liminal space. A huge tree grows from my chest, roots clutching my heart, then falls, leaving a gaping hole. Only a revenant remains, a bloodless eye socket, the stare of empty sight. A headless woman dressed in white chases the night, haunted by past relations, shaming this failure. Tomorrow our children will be costumed as fairies, unaware of an underworld flame which scars and devours. They will plead to run as beggars into that evening of tricks and treats. And I should have had an epithet, a dumb supper in the original holiday was when everyone was quiet and the young women could look into mirrors and find their future love. A standard haunting was a headless woman dressed in white, and I think that's it. Those were direct references to the holiday.
Very nice.
Thank you all.
Good job on that. I really appreciated it.
Thanks.
Heather, are you here? Heather Grant?
I'm here. I'm here there. I'm not going to read. Yeah, I'm not going to read today. I want to just listen today, Glenn. I was not thinking of Halloween sort of thoughts. So maybe I can pull something up towards the end, but I'd like to just listen for right now.
Okay, well, there's only one more reader, and that's
Okay.
Debbie Walker Lass.
All right.
You don't have to follow the prompt if you want to. You can read anything at all if you like, Heather. If you want to skip this week, that's okay too.
Yeah, I think I just want to listen today. Thank you. But thank you for asking.
Well, thank you for coming. We all really appreciate you for being here. Okay, Debbie.
Hey, y'all. This is a different poem for me, so I hope I can do the reading justice. I'm not sure. It's called "The Term A Murder of Crows is Very Rarely Referred to in Real Life." In stories, poetry, song, the murder of crows flies into prose, bursts into verse like a hearse in a small town, slow, moving at a snail's pace, swooping under carapace, flapping at a death pace, slow, like a rube in the rat race. On its wings, a black fate, show what's await on the blank slate. Ordained on the first date, scream in the void from a safe place. Murderous? No. Scavengers making death a clean plate, eating just the fresh bait, thrown fast out of windows at skyfall, slow. Flesh-eating scrap mates, years on terra firma space, yet to no circumstance, unless purely happenstance or literary reference, no. It's not common sense, pointing to the sky while slow, saying, oh, look, there goes a murder of crows. Unusual.
That was great.
And let's see. I have one other, I don't know if you'd call it a poem. Well, no, it's not pulling up. I apologize, y'all. I can't get it pulled up for whatever reason.
That's
But
okay.
thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. Any poem from you is worth 2 poems. We always love your work. Thanks so much.
You. Thank you.
I'm getting ready. I know everybody's read. I don't think there's anyone here who hasn't. And that wants to. If I'm wrong about that, send me a note right away. I just want to say to my dad who is sick and in the hospital, if he watches this, I want to thank you for the poetry. Every around Halloween time, he would read James Whitcomb Riley's Little Orphaned Annie, and it scared the bejesus out of me. It was very frightening. So I would second encourage all the people who come and watch this to pull that up. We're not in the habit of reading poems by other people, so I'm not going to read it, but look it up and read it to your children. It is worth it. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. You made this day really, really
Thank you
nice.
for letting me in.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Glenn. Bye.
Thank you for coming, Patrice. Bye-bye. Bye,
Thank
Peter,
you,
Linda, James, Doug, Francis, all of you. Allison, oh, it was wonderful to have you come and listen. I appreciate that.
It was
All right.
fabulous. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
James,
Thank
you're
you all.
so expressive, by the way, James Nicola. That's fantastic. Well, both of you guys, both of you are such good readers. All right. Bye, everybody.